Sit back and relax. It's time for Stephen's Anecdotes.
When I left university, me and my friend Hugh Laurie shared a house, and we had a bit of work to do, and our plasterers, do you know who they were?
Oh, Shannon and Ball.
Charlie Hickson and Paul Whitehouse were our plasterers.
And you were their inspiration.
Yes.
For so many characters.
Exactly.
Stephen, the fellas in the hall are awfully funny.
That's you, is it? Right. I'm telling you.
What do you say we listen in on them and make a few jokes?
I think the boot was on the other foot. I think the boot was very much on the other, but they overheard us being amusing in the kitchen. I got kicked out of a tour. I was in Salt Lake City, and if you just sort of gather in the main square where the pioneers' hand carts are done in bronze statuary and all this, someone will come up to you in a shift called elder somebody, and they will ask if you would like to see more of Salt Lake City and its history, and you say, well, OK, and then they gather a few more, and you realise you're part of a tour party. Yeah. For most of it, it's historical, and then it becomes, of course, proselytising. They try and convert you to Mormonism. So anyway, we're wandering along, and they took me and they said, the tabernacle, they said, it's the second largest organ in the world. And I said, well, which religion has the largest? And they said, I don't know. I said, oh, OK, well, fair enough. So already she got her eye on me as a troublemaker. And then she said, at the end, she gathered us all round. She said, I'm not going to put any pressure on you. I just want to say that one thing we know as members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, as we're called, that when you die, you and all your family are reunited for eternity. And so I said, well, what happens if you've been good? She said, could you leave, sir? Sir, could you leave, please? Because everybody started pissing themselves. Well, I mean, what kind of hell? Yeah. I mean, I love my mummy and I love my daddy and many members of my family, but to be with all of them? It's just unspeakable. That one long Christmas day like this. I made an Oscar. I actually made a genuine Oscar. I went to the factory in Chicago where they were made.
Is it a mould, like a jelly mould?
Well, there is a mould, but it's pure metal Britannium.
Well, you have to hew it.
Yeah. Well, you buff it.
If you have to,
a damn good buffing.
If you have to hew it, I mean, I'm not being rude, but if I was winning an Oscar this year, I'd say, can I have one of the ones made by the professional? That was Stephen Fry balls that.
I was well supervised. To be honest, I did a bit of buffing.
Right.
On the bum area,
and then dipping. You bad. You're a very bad man. Yes, a little bit of... little... good buttock flossing. And dipping him in nickel and then in that gold. It's very...
So you didn't really make...
No,
I mean, it's like the Queen pulling a pint.
Basically. That's more or less what it was like. Thank you so much. So, who was the best actor in your year? You were best actress.
Al Pacino.
And your other Oscar, of course, was for best adapted screenplay for Sense and Sensibility. I should have won that Oscar, as a matter of fact.
Actually, yes, you should.
Yeah.
You rescued it.
Yeah.
Yes, I had one of those steam-powered computers, and the screen had done something to the script. It had transmogrified into hieroglyphs, into just... not words, not anything that I could recognise, just funny shapes. I got the computer bloke round, and he couldn't work it out. So finally, I took the computer out of the wall, still in my dressing gown, got in a taxi, went with the computer round to Stephen's house, sat it down and said, please, find my script. And I did it like that because I'm an actress. I don't think if I'm upset, I make sure people know it. And he said, oh, OK, but it took him 7 hours. And Hugh was with you at the time.
Oh, advantages in being a nerd.
Probably what really happened was he couldn't do it. He thought, oh, shit, I can't
I'd better
let
quickly
on.
write one.
I'll just write it. It's much quicker if I just adapt the novel.
And I looked at it and thought, you know, I'd forgotten, obviously, because my brain doesn't hold any information for any length of time at all. I just looked at it and thought, that must be my script, and I handed it in.
Yeah.
I'll send the Oscar round tomorrow.
Thank you. I was visiting a friend's house, and on the upstairs landing, I was gone to the loo, and I came out, and it was a summer's day, and there was a big open window over the lawn, and there was a football, and I kicked the football through the window, and the child burst into tears, and it had a hamster in it. It was a hamster ball. I didn't know that. I'd never seen such a thing. There are these balls that you put hamsters in. It was terrible.
What
It was actually fine. It was a little dizzy, but it wasn't dead.
Exhilarated, I thought.
Exhilarated. Again.
Someone's done it!
But fortunately, there was a man ready for it. It just happened to be that history had thrown up a quite brilliant mathematician called Alan Turing, who was at Cambridge at the time. There he is. He's considered the father of computing, one of the truly great men of his time. And you may remember Gordon Brown making an impassioned but far too late apology on behalf of the British government for his terrible death. He was persecuted for his homosexuality and chemically castrated and then committed suicide by eating a poisoned apple. And there are many to this day who believe that Apple computers named their apple with the bite out of it in honour of Alan Turing, the father of computing. And I was in a position to ask one of the founders, Steve Jobs, and he said it isn't true, but God, we wish it were. It's just a coincidence, but they're very proud that people think it might be, because he was a simply extraordinary man. I have an Arga. Yes, I know, I should be shocked, but I do. And it kept going out. And I got the Arga person to come and look at it.
Down the shops, or...? You're out shopping and you see your Arga. You rush over and just as you get there, it's not there, and you keep losing it.
So the Arga man kept coming, and he kept saying it's perfectly fine, and it kept going out again. So eventually he said, I've got to stay overnight, he said. This wasn't... Come on. He just said... Because he would come during the day, light it was perfect. In the morning, I'd ring him up and say it's gone out overnight, and he couldn't work it out. And what it turned out was it was an owl would roost on the top of the cowling of the flue, because it liked the warm air up it or whatever, and it would cover itself over it, and it would block it out and stop it. So it's a safety device if you block the chicken. If you block the chimney of an Arga, it goes out. Anyway, that's my owl Arga story. Wasn't worth telling. Yes, I'm pissed. Never mind.
Have you not met the Queen yet?
Yes. She nudged me once, quite hard in the ribs. It was quite funny. It was her son's wedding to Camilla at Windsor Castle, and she'd made this very funny speech. She got on a table. She stood on the table.
She got on a table?
Yeah, she stood on the table. She stood on the chair and got on the table, and then she made a very funny speech, and she got down, and she just mingled the bung everywhere. And I was chatting to someone, I got this rib. Is anybody going to give me cake? So I said, of course, ma'am, I'll get you some cake.
It must be a dream. I dreamed all of it.
I know it sounds mad, but it's absolutely...
I'm going outside for a fag.
Come on, Fry. It was in the days I'd smoked, and I'm afraid I was caught by a photographer in the buttresses of the chapel in Windsor. Lots of Hammer films. The Devil Rides Out and those kind of things. Usually Peter Cushing, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, they would have Charles Gray in a huge white smock.
Peter Cushing lived in Whitstable when I lived in Whitstable, and a local band had a song about him which went, Peter Cushing lives in Whitstable, I have seen him on his bicycle, I have seen him buying vegetables, Peter Cushing lives in Whitstable.
What a great song.
And then it just goes up, Peter Cushing lives in Whitstable.
You see, this is the first rule of pop music. Write about what you know, what you see out of the window. I worked with him. He was extraordinary. He was one of the few people who, when he was introduced to a woman, could kiss their hand, and he was just from another era.
Lee, bite the finger off.
I was about to do a film with Christopher Lee. It was rather scary. He said, oh, Chris isn't scary at all. He's lovely. I tell you what, I'll call him up. And I said, no. So in the dressing room, and he picked up the phone and said, Chris, darling, Chris, it's Peter. It's great. It's, you know, Van Helsing and Dracula on the phone again. He said, I've got a young actor who's going to work with you in a film and he's rather scared of you. So talk to him. Hello, who are you? And then, Stephen, I'm really looking forward to working with you in a film. Yes, well, I'll see you, I expect, on the set. Could you Pass me back to Mr. Cushing, please.
Peter, I have seen you buying vegetables.
Was there a moment when he said, I know, Peter, I'll call him up. Do you expect him to go, Chuntala, You sought me!
Another man I was very proud to have met, the Hammer film of the Witchfinder General, starred Vincent Price. You just wanted to say things like, could you pass the mustard to me? I got him to say the line that I loved. It was from one of those films where he's kind of strangely bound up in some weird bandages. Pray speak quietly. Every sound you make is exquisite agony to me. Do you know, I was at university. There was a young man who was called Heinz. I knew it wasn't his real name because he was actually an Etonian, rather sort of blonde-y guy. He was really nice. Oh, hi, really super guy. Very funny. Everything was hilarious. God, that's really funny, actually. Seriously funny. Really nice. And I asked a friend who'd been at school with him, I said, oh, yeah, his name's William or Piers or Hamish or whatever, you know. I said, why does everyone call him Heinz? He said, no, well, it was at school. Somebody burst into his room without knocking, and he had a mound of baked beans all over his when he was in it. So this poor guy is called, and everyone's called him Heinz. He went, hi, yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah, Heinz.
I used to put boiling hot cheese on top of my beans. I hope you didn't.
On top of your beans, thank God for that.
Is beans a euphemism in this case?
When you go in and he's there, what do you say in that situation?
Sorry.
Black pepper, sir. What kind of culinary accident do you have to to discover the pleasure of the beans? The old fella.
He spilt it in his lap. He just sat down to watch the telly. He went, oh, no.
Mind you.
Thank you for watching. Do remember to subscribe to the QI channel and click here to watch more videos. Well, please, come on, pick something.